you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome into the Sick Podcast with producer Shayne, replacing Matt O'Hayan today. Not sure that I want to be replacing Matt because, this is probably not going to be the most positive episode, but you know what? We're going to power through it, and we got a great guest as always. Luckily, he didn't get to watch the game. He was at the Bell Center watching the boss, Bruce Springsteen. I think we're all a bit jealous of him. But before we get to our guest, fall is the perfect time to start a new job, right? So unlock your potential with Secure Payment Experts. Secure is the highest paying English-speaking call center in the Montreal area. That's right. This job is English only. No French required, which we know is next to impossible to find here in Montreal. They're an always growing team, and with two great locations, downtown Montreal and the West Island. Okay, Secure offers a fun and unique culture with great earning potential. Plus, no experience necessary. There are two ways to apply. Either you head over to Life@Secure on Instagram and tap Apply Now, or you can text Apply Now with your name and phone number to 514-909-8344. Come work at Secure. That's Secure with the K. Apply today. Start tomorrow. And hopefully you followed Tony's advice and placed the over on goals for the Habs games this week, because if you didn't, you could do that moving forward on Betway. Okay, Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on betway.com or you scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 18 plus and play responsibly. All right. How about we bring him in? He is Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, safe to assume you're doing better than most Habs fan right now.
Probably. I'm still recovering from the Bruce Springsteen concert last night at the Bell Center, which was amazing. I watched the Habs on tape this morning, and it was pretty ugly. It's getting uglier. That's what 6 goals or more are now allowed in 5 of their first 11 games, including 2 of the last 3 and 2 in a row and 3 of the last 5. Confusion in the defensive zone, young defensemen making mistakes. The offense, apart from Cole Caulfield, Brendan Gallagher is second on the team in goals with 4, tied with Suzuki. It's not looking good, and there's no signs really of it getting better. Both goalies have been shaky, and coming into the season, I wrote a season preview column. And I said, the 2 biggest question marks were goaltending and the young defense. The young defense I figured would struggle. The goaltending I thought would be better than it is, especially Sam Montembeault. Like I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, I've never really been sold on Caden Primo as a legitimate NHL goalie, and he's struggling again now. But Sam Montembeault, he's really got to pick up his game, or this is going to be a really long season for the Canadiens.
Right. And you mentioned that there's no sign of improvement. We kind of did see a little bit over the weekend. There was some glimmer of hope, right? Yeah. The Habs win 2 in a row, which is, again, a rare feat for them. They beat St. Louis and Philly, convincing wins. I'd say they didn't really, steal those games. Granted, Philly tried to come back at the end. That was a bit scary. But then you follow that up with 2 ugly losses. You let in 14 goals in 2 games. There's no chance you can win with that. So it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, it seems. Again, it's a rebuild. It's a young team, but it's also year 4. Needs to be steps forward, no steps back, right? They can be small steps forward, but you have to move forward.
I mean, there are going to be steps back just because they're so young.
Right.
Michel Therrien used to say you have to score at least 3 goals to win a game. Well, you can also say you're not going to win a game if you have 6 goals. It's just not going to happen, especially the way with this team, the way they struggle to score goals. There's reason for concern. The biggest reason for concern I have is the confusion in their defensive zone. At some point, does Marty just simplify it and go to a straight zone defense instead of this hybrid thing? And the other thing that is a concern is the compete level isn't there. It's missing at times. And in the third period against Washington, Marty St. Louis said we threw up on ourselves. But that was the thing since Marty took over, that the compete level was always there. They were in games, and that's why they lost so many 1-goal games last year. They'd fight and battle and whack and hack and try and do everything. And then, they get blown out by Seattle on home ice. And the only guy who really seemed to be pissed off was Arbor Jackeye.
Mm-hmm.
End of the game, Slavkovsky with like 20 seconds left, but Jackeye was pissed off and he was like hitting guys, and you could tell he hated it. And then he's made a healthy scratch for the next game again, and that I find hard to understand. A guy who he really cared and didn't like the losing part, while other guys just seem to be going through the motion. So that's my concern moving forward: is are the players not buying what Marty's selling as much now? Is that why? I mean, we saw this at the end of the Dominic Ducharme era when the players sort of quit playing for him. Remember, Montembeault got run at Cassian. Nobody did anything. Everybody stood around and watched. Nobody cared, right? And that's why the Jackeye healthy scratch surprised me again, because he cares. He showed he cared against Seattle on home ice when they got booed off the ice, when people were singing "Ole, Ole, Ole" with 5 minutes left in the game and them getting smoked. So it's it's concerning times. It really is. I mean, I didn't think this was a playoff team, even with Patrick Laine in the lineup. Losing him is definitely a hurt. Losing Caden Gooley for so long is hurt. You can make a million excuses, but as Marty likes to say, the NHL doesn't care. The league just goes on. And they've got to try and right this, because, it's been a honeymoon with Marty St. Louis up until this point. And now fans are starting to turn, media is starting to turn. And you wonder if the players are starting to tune out a little bit. And, I've said right from the beginning, I was surprised they didn't hire an NHL coach with more experience to help Marty behind the bench. And I think that was a mistake. I thought it was a mistake before the season started. I was surprised during the offseason. I asked Kent Hughes about it. I can't remember which press conference it was. Maybe it was around the trade deadline or after the draft. But I asked him, and he said, we're going to speak with Marty and we're going to see what he wants to do, and we'll decide moving forward. So Marty obviously decided he was comfortable with just himself and Robida and Letowski behind the bench, who the three of them combined don't have much NHL coaching experience. I mean, Marty went from Bantam hockey to the NHL, and Robida went from midget AAA to the NHL, and Letowski went from junior. At least he was a head coach in junior. To the NHL. So I really think they need some help. Marty needs some help to straighten things out defensively. And it'll be interesting to see, him and Gorton and Hughes and Marty are all buddies. And until now, it's been sort of a love affair and with the fans and everything else. But now things are going to start getting hard. Now they're going to have to start making some hard decisions. And maybe it's a case of Marty doesn't want to change his defensive system. Maybe it's a case of Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton explaining to him, you're going to have to do something. Or maybe it's a case of we're going to have to bring in another coach to help you out if you can't write this yourself. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next month or so. I mean, rebuilds, it's year 3. I maintain you can't really judge a rebuild until after 5 years. You got Michael Hage still coming. You got Demidov coming. You got, we'll see what happens with David Reinbacher if he can ever stay healthy and come here. There's Jacob Fowler coming up as a goalie. There's lots of things looking forward that are still reason for hope, but you don't want to get that losing attitude. And again, my biggest concern is just the compete level not being there. It's that losing grabs hold of you and you become the Buffalo Sabres, right? 12 years in a row with no playoffs, despite all the high draft picks and all the good players and everything else. So it's going to be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to hear the conversations that are going on today between Marty and Jeff Gorton and Ken Hughes, because I'm sure none of them are happy. I mean, Marty, that's the most. I kept wondering when Marty was going to get upset after a game. And we saw it after the game last night in Washington, where he said, we threw up on ourselves.
Yeah, that honestly, that was the perfect analogy. They came into the third 3-3, and then they exactly did that. They threw up on themselves. or they soiled themselves, however you want to put it. It's self-inflicted wounds. Right?
Yeah, and the game against Seattle, you're down 5-0 and you've only given up 10 shots. The guys go, come on, somebody stop the puck, please. And that's a big way for young players to lose confidence is when the goalies can't stop the puck, and that we've seen that happen too often so far with the Canadiens.
Oh yeah. But again, it's a team effort, and like you mentioned, the winning culture is an essential part of a successful rebuild. We see it with Buffalo. They did not establish a winning culture. They're not good again this year, right? And there's no light at the end of the tunnel, it seems. Mm-hmm. That's what they need to avoid. Again, you
Ottawa, similar situation with Ottawa. Yeah.
Ottawa, right? So you accumulate the players, the pieces, but doesn't necessarily mean that the puzzle will fit, right? You need to establish that culture and the pride. To me, it just seems like there's not enough players that are proud to put on that jersey and give everything they have every night. That seems apparent to me, and that's very concerning.
Yeah, and getting smoked the way they did the night they brought out that 1970s dynasty team, and then to get blown out in that game against the Rangers. Like you're right. I mean, it's they're really young. They have it's hard. I think people are realizing now, when you had some fans saying, "Oh, just trade all the veterans, get rid of them all, get rid of Matheson, get rid of Savard, get rid of all these guys." You look at a guy like Jonathan Kovacevic, they're missing him, right? He was a steady, stay-at-home, solid defenseman who provided, 14, 15 minutes of solid play, nothing spectacular. They've just got so many kids, Heineman and Kapanen and guys that just trying to get their feet wet in the NHL and feeling comfortable. Marty St. Louis said with Kapanen, he needs to gain more confidence, which is understandable for any young player, especially touching the puck. He's also playing out of position. He's playing on the wing instead of playing center. You wonder moving forward how he's better as a center. And I spoke with Kapanen, and he said he's more comfortable. And then you got Christian Dvorak just taking minutes, right? Like just skating around out there doing nothing. He didn't have a shot or a hit against Washington.
The last two games,
not a shot or a hit as a centerman. Like what does he do? He's just skating around out there. And coming into the season, he was, he's had so many injury problems, and he's healthy. You figure, okay, let's see what he can do. But it's that sort of juggling act. Like at some point, you need some veterans in the lineup, but you also have to show the veterans that if you don't play, we're going to sit you and we're going to put one of the younger guys in. And maybe Marty will reach that point. I mean, they did it with Army last season. No, they sent them to Laval. They sent them to Laval twice, and he picked up his game. But then this year he's sort of gone back to the old Army we knew before. So there's a lot of question marks moving forward, and not shockingly. And I said year 3 of a rebuild. And as I mentioned off the top, losing Patrick Laine was a huge loss for this team. But again, the concerns going forward, my same concerns I had at the beginning of the season, the goaltending and the young defense. It's not a good mix. It's hard to win when you're giving up 6 goals a game. Right.
And again, hockey is a team sport, right? And I hate to do this. I hate to single out players and not attack them, but I don't like to single out players, but you have to do it with Christian Dvorak. Again, last night, honestly, made me angry. Seeing that kind of performance twice in a row, like you mentioned, no shots, no hits. There needs to be a message sent, because then you got guys in Laval who are busting their ass, and Laval's been doing great, who see a player like that not give a shit. And let's put the cards on the table. Like he was not involved. He got a secondary assist last night, and that was lucky. Let's be honest. He didn't really work for it. There's just an overall lack of involvement. There needs to be a message sent. Like there needs to be some form of accountability and reward system, right? Reward the players who play at a high level, who want to be here. And, the players who don't, well, sorry, waivers
you can't keep, making the same guys your whip. You can't keep making Arbor Jackai sort of your whipping boy, or you got to, other guys have to be held to the same type of accountability. And you wonder if that's part of the thing in the locker room. You mentioned Laval. I mean, kudos to Pascal Vincent. I mean, he came in and they figured this was going to be a tough start to the season in Laval with so many young guys. So they're 6-1. They're off to a really good start. He's got them buying into what he's selling there. And there's a guy with NHL head coaching experience. Like, he's doing a great job there. Would he maybe be better helping Marty behind the bench, or someone like that? Someone who just like Marty has his concepts and his ideas and everything else, and he sees the game differently than other people do, and most great players do. Wayne Gretzky saw the game differently than other people do. Connor McDavid sees the game differently. But as a coach, it's one thing to see the game that way, but to get your players to see it the same way is a different thing. And they just don't seem to be able to see the game the way he wants them to play with. And he maintains that hybrid system works and that other teams do it, and that it's just the players not executing it properly. But 11 games into the season and they still can't execute it. Maybe the system's a problem, not the players. Maybe it's not the system's a problem. Maybe the players just are too confused.
Yeah.
When you switch from man to man, when you go back to zone, you see defensemen chasing guys all the way, like up to the blue line and around, and no defenseman in front of the net. And it's getting, and when the goaltending's not that good, especially just dumb it down and simplify things a little bit. Maybe even just for 5 games or something, and see what happens. Just see if that works, and then if that doesn't work, then you're really in trouble.
Big time. Because right now the Habs are allowing an average of 4.18 goals per game, which is dead last in the league.
Tied with Colorado.
Dead last.
Tied with Colorado
right.
For the most goals. You're giving up 4. Well, as I said, Michel Terry said you can't win a game unless you score 3 goals. When even if the Habs score 3 goals, they're going to lose because they're giving up 4. So it's their goals, their goal differential is -15. The only team that's worse is San Jose at -17. They give up a ton of shots. They give up a ton of goals. They don't score a lot. There's a lot. It's going to be this could end up being a really, really long season. And
right.
As I said, it's interesting now because with Marty St. Louis, he had the quote there recently saying, I don't listen to what media or fans say because why would I take advice from somebody I wouldn't go to advice for? But hopefully he's getting some advice from Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes now about how to try and get this thing back on track, because they're all in the same boat with this, right? They're the 3 guys leading this rebuild, and up until now it's been mostly all positive, and fans have been really patient, and the patience is starting to wear off. And I think part of the reason this patience, you lose to Seattle on home ice, okay, but to get blown out by the Seattle Kraken on home ice and go through the last part of the game, it was like they just couldn't wait for the final siren to go. I mean, the building was 3/4, if not more, empty with the last 5 minutes left. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. And I think fans, especially since there was so much hope going into this season, with Laine coming in and the talk about being in the mix, and they're being in the mix for a playoff spot. They certainly now they're in the mix for the number 1 pick again next year. I think that's part of why fans are so frustrated, because they figured, okay, I didn't expect them to make the playoffs this year either. I thought that in the mix was a really reasonable goal to set and a possible goal to reach. Maybe playing 500 for the year. But this team is going to be way below 500 unless they can tighten things up in their own end. And Logan Mayo sent back to Laval. Probably not a bad thing. He was running around in his own end there, looking lost a bit. Justin Barron, they're sort of they're handcuffed because they can't send Justin Barron down because he'll be claimed by another team on waivers almost certainly. Same with Caden Primo. Like how much more patient are they going to be with Caden Primo before you send him down and bring up Dobes, and just if somebody claims him on waivers, somebody claims. I mean, Primo's 25 years old now. His career NHL record, 12-23-7. So loses basically twice as many games as he wins. More if you factor in the overtime losses. So 30 losses and 12 wins in total, with a 3.58 goals against average and an .890 save percentage. So that's, and the save percentage this season is .861 with a 4.38 goals against average. At what point do you just say, okay, we need to look somewhere else to find the backup, or if Montembeault keeps playing the way he's playing, as poorly as he's playing, the number 1 guy. And I wonder if, coming into the season, Montembeault was considered one of the real candidates to be the goalie for Team Canada for the 4 Nations tournament. And I asked him after the last game there at the Bell Center if that was in the back of his mind. And he said maybe a little bit, but he's trying not to do that because it's so far ahead. But I mean, the way he's playing now, he's not going to be he's not going to be Team Canada goalie for the way all the Canadian goalies are playing right now. It might be 39-year-old Marc-Andre Fleury playing goalie for Canada. The way it is, I mean, all the top Canadian guys are struggling in net this season. So, it's not going to get any easier. On the road Saturday again, in Pittsburgh, and Crosby and the guys. So, and Pittsburgh's struggling also. But if they lose again and give up 6 or more goals again, next week's not going to be fun for Marty St. Louis.
To me, it just seems like there's a hemorrhage right now, right? They're bleeding out, and they're not putting any pressure on the wound, right? They're just letting it flow, and at one point they're going to die. So there needs to be some intervention, some form of electroshock, some form of intervention to prevent the bleeding, right? To stop the bleeding. Like, I don't know. It just seems a little. I understand being patient, letting things play out, letting chemistry be built, right? But when it's not working after 11 games, something needs to change. So I'm going to ask you, they need energy. They need an electroshock. Where could that be found, Grant?
Well, I think that's found by sitting a veteran or doing what they did with the Army last year and sending a guy down and bringing up one of the guys in Laval who's accountability, who's some accountability for it, and just, treating every guy the same, like treating the veterans the same as the rookies. If you're not playing well, we're going to sit you. And they showed, as I said, they were willing to do that last year with Armia, and Armia and Dvorak are similar in that they're both very skilled players, but they both. No, you mentioned earlier he plays like he doesn't give a crap. It's just like, to me, I don't think they don't play with emotion. They don't get angry. Like at some point when you're losing, you need to get angry, right? You need to hit somebody. Like, Dvorak has 0 hits in 2 games. Like at some point, just finish a check. Run a guy into the boards. Do something to show that you care, right? Do something to show your coach and your teammates that you're not just out there for a skate and collecting a paycheck, and do something. Go out and do something. And if you're not going to do something, we're going to find somebody else who will do something. And another guy, Pizzetta's a healthy scratch a lot. I mean, he is who he is, but he brings energy. He cares. He runs. He hits guys. You notice him when he's on the ice. And there's too many guys in the Canes now that we're not noticing on the ice, or if we are noticing with the defensemen, it's because they're taking the puck out of their own net. And with Marty, it's really going to be interesting to see. Day off today for them, play tomorrow in Pittsburgh, and again, if they get smoked again by Pittsburgh, it's going to be, they come back home. There's practicing here, I believe, Monday morning in Brossard, and be a lot of media people there, and there'll be a lot of questions coming at Marty. And as I said, he finally seemed to get upset in a post-game news conference. When's he going to get upset with his players? Like, right. What are we going to see? Even when he called the timeout there against Seattle, he was sort of calm and, maybe dropped a few F-bombs in that. But at some point, I think he needs to show that this is totally unacceptable, the performance that they're putting on the ice right now.
Precisely. They desperately need some energy. So maybe they should call Energy Transportation Group. They don't provide energy, but they are a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. They're driven to be different. Stu, we've been talking about, the reality of the situation, but let's not forget some positives. Okay. That's how I like to look at things, even when it's awful. There are always bright spots, and we have to start with Cole Caulfield, currently tied for first in the NHL for goals with 10 in 11 games. Now, we've been talking at great lengths about the last time the Habs have had a point per game player and a 50-goal scorer. Right now, Nick Suzuki has 13 points in 11 games. Cole Caulfield has 11 and 11, 10 goals. I think those are two pretty good bright spots for now, right?
They are. And Suzuki, the first 2 games didn't play very well and said, I have to be better. And he's been better since then. And Caulfield, I mean, he's shooting from everywhere. And they're going in, and at some point they won't go in at the rate they're going in now, but his confidence level has to be sky high right now. And he's a goal scorer, right? And he's paid to score goals, and now he's scoring goals. And Lane Hudson, apart from another bright spot, he's got 7 assists in 11 games, still looking for his first goal. It looked like he might have had it last night, but it was Gallagher who tipped it in. Gallagher's another bright spot to me. He's got 4 goals. He's looked good right from the start of training camp. I spoke with him at training camp, and he was saying how nice it was to go into an off season healthy last year. Like, he's so used to, the season ends and he can barely walk, and he's got to probably take a month off before he can even start getting into the gym. But last season, he finished the season healthy, went into his workouts right away, starting in the off season. Talking about caring, he always cares. His compete level is always there. He gets pissed off when they're losing. And he's sort of a veteran guy that he wears that sweater with pride. He always has since he came to it. They need more guys to start playing like Brendan Gallagher. They just got too many passengers on the team. I mean, you look at and again, the lack of offense, which has been like forever, right? It's like you got Caulfield with 10 goals, and then nobody else has more than 4. And you go down. Newhook's got 2. Heinemann's got 2. Jake Evans, who's actually played really well, he's not paid to score goals, has 2. Josh Anderson has 2. Yoel Armia has 1. Kirby Doc has 1. Yuri Slavkovsky has 1. You can't win. You can't. They're again a one-line offensive team, and lots of problems on defense. And they've gone from losing games by 1 goal to getting blown last season, losing by 1 goal because of their compete level, to just getting blown out. 6 goals or more in 5 of 11 games. It's like almost half their games they give up 6 goals. It's that's a really bad hockey team.
It's funny how it's also sad how we started talking about the positives.
It's hard to get. It really is. I mean, there's so few positives to speak about. There's so few positives on this team to speak about right now. Is it defense? No. Is it goaltending? No. Is it the forwards? Well, apart from Caulfield and Gallagher and Suzuki, no. It's Laval. We can talk about Laval. We want to talk about positives. There you go. That's
a great
positive. A real pleasant surprise. And I remember at development camp last year when JF Houle was a coach in Laval, and he said right away, we're going to have a hard time at the start of the season because these guys are young. They've never played pro hockey before. For a lot of the guys, like Owen Beck, who was living with Billitson Jr., first time you're living alone. The first time hockey is your only thing, like you're not for university kids. They had school before or whatever. Now it's the first time you're ever a pro hockey player, and the travel schedule in the AHL is really hard. Yeah, and Jeff Wu was saying last year it's going to be really hard for us at the beginning, and it was. The Rocket really struggled over the last season. Pascal Vincent was saying the exact same thing at development camp this year. We're really young, a lot of new guys coming in. They've never played pro hockey. It's going to be really hard, and then boom, look at what they've been able to do. And the games, I haven't been to one of their games. I've seen some of the highlights that when I watch a couple of games on TV, they're competing.
Oh yeah,
playing hard, and they sort of have that. The thing that impressed me so much with the Canadiens last year was that you could see there was a brotherhood. Like these guys really liked each other, and they were really playing hard for each other. And I'm not saying they don't have that this year, but they're giving up this year, whereas last year they didn't give up. And part of that, part of that's the goaltending. You're on the bench. I mentioned you're on the bench, and 4 goals and 8 shots. You're going, oh crap! We got no chance to win. But they've got to. That attitude, I think, is the biggest concern right now for the team.
Absolutely. Watching the game last night, I had this thought, and again, I'm not saying the trade was bad, but this team is missing Sean Monahan so bad, bad. Again, they got Michael Hage for it.
Yep.
Great trade. I would not cancel that, but a presence like Sean Monahan, right? To me, that would be instrumental, because when they had him, I mean, he was like the older cousin. I won't call him the dad, right? But he was like the older cousin showing the way, right? I don't really know that there's anyone showing the way. It's
good. Then they loved Sean Monahan. I mean, it's terrible. And one of the reasons he went to Columbus, he wanted to play with his buddy, Johnny Gaudreau. But Monahan's after a great start there, and Monahan's just a good hockey player and a good person and a good role model. I mean, they still have like Mike Matheson's that type of guy, but forward wise, that was a huge loss. And Jonathan Kovacevic, I mentioned earlier, like guys like that you sort of take for granted. I don't think Monahan wasn't taken for granted, but Kovacevic was. you need guys like that, right? You can't just have nothing but kids on your team. And I think it was Elliot Friedman, I think, or one of the Hockey Insiders said that, Kent Hughes is trying to add up forward with some grit. Look around for trades, and that's something this team, I think, needs. They need somebody who doesn't play 2 games in a row with 0 hits and 0 shots, right? They need, to me, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if the players see the stat sheets between periods or if they get them or not. I'm not certain, but I'm thinking you probably know in your own head too. If I'm sitting in the intermission and I realize I don't have a shot on goal and I don't have a hit and I'm going out for the 3rd period and we're losing, you might be a little pissed off, right? You might want to go out and first shift run somebody into the boards or do something. And there's too many guys going through the motions. There's too many guys that are playing like they don't really care that much, or they've sort of given up, or they're confused, or all those things together. And it's not a good combination, and we're seeing the results of it on the ice.
Exactly. Well, last night, to help out with the enjoyability of the game, I cracked open a Bittt at Tibi, and you know what? They launched their new Ultra Lager, okay, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the cool fall days. Granted, it was pretty hot last night. Perfect for trick-or-treaters. Anyways, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% ABV per can. They're available in packs of 6 and 12 in grocery stores and C-stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Saturday, tomorrow, in Pittsburgh against the Penguins, against a team that also has had their fair share of struggles. But the last time they played, the Penguins stomped the Habs. So, again, like we mentioned, there needs to be some sort of change, an electroshock. Send a message. Stu, if you were in charge, what would it be?
I think you sit at Christian Dvorak, or you just say this is unacceptable. I think you got to do that. I mean, there's only, like, what else can he do? There's not a lot of stuff. You sit Arbor Xhekaj out again, or do you put him back? I'd put Arbor Xhekaj back in the lineup. Absolutely. That would be the first thing I would do. But there's no, they got to get the give a crap meter back up. I was talking earlier, okay, I went to Bruce Springsteen concert last night. The man is 75 years old, right? He played for 3 hours.
Wow.
Amazing. Doesn't need the money. The man's a billionaire. He sold his music rights for like $500 million. He doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
He's doing this because he has a passion for it, and he loves it, and he cares about it. And like, it was exhausting watching him for 3 hours. Like, I got up, I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. Like, how he's 75 years old. The Habs need more guys like Bruce Springsteen who really care, like really have that passion. And that's why they're playing. They have that passion and that desire, and the you want to be your best, and you want to show that you're still the best. At 75 years old for Bruce Springsteen, showing that he's still the best live show probably out there. Mm-hmm. So they need, I don't know, maybe Marty St. Louis comes in the room and says, I need Bruce Springsteen's, some guys who are the boss on the ice or something like that. But I find it hard. Like, I grew up dreaming of being a pro athlete, and I'm sure you might have also, when you dream of getting there and what it would be like playing there. And I find it so hard. That's one of the reasons I admire Brendan Gallagher so much, Cole Caulfield so much also. These are guys who love every day of being a pro athlete. Like, they cherish it, and it's a short career. I mean, Marty St. Louis said that last year when he said that you'll arm you down to Laval. He says he has to realize that your playing career is very short and your life after hockey is very long. So you better make the most of the days you are playing. And I think that's maybe a message Marty needs to deliver to the whole team again. Also, like, your careers are short. It's going to go by fast. There's no excuse for not giving 100. I mean, you're up health-wise, you're not going to be at 100% every game, and you're going to have bad games now and then. I know Chris Nyland spoke about it when Jacques Lemaire was coaching him. He told him you're allowed to have one bad game out of 10. No, one game out of 10. So like 8 games a year, you're allowed to have a bad game. No more than that. And they just need to, like, you're so fortunate to be in the NHL. There's a million people who would give whatever to be there. You're making a lot of money. You're getting 15 minutes of ice time a game, 15 to 20 minutes of ice time a game. Make the most of those 15 to 20 minutes. Like, dig in, give all you got. Give, Brendan Gallagher's work ethic in practice is the same as it is in games. Like, you give that work ethic, the work ethic Bruce Springsteen had at the concert last night. They just need more guys to get out there and play every shift almost like it's your last shift in the NHL, because it could be, right? You never know. You get a concussion, you break your leg. Kirby Dach realized that last year, or the knee injury, sat out a year. You just need the give a crap meters really got to go up with this hockey team.
I agree. Now, line combinations. They've been, changing. Maybe not enough, but there's been a few little adjustments here and there. I mean, do you keep trying new formulas? Do you go back to what worked prior? And if you were in charge of making the lineup, how would it look tomorrow?
I mean, when Marty put Slafkovsky down on the second line after he came back from that upper body injury, he was saying, I need to get that second line going.
Yeah,
and they do, right? Caulfield and Suzuki are the only forwards producing. They started Heineman on that line last night, maybe sending a message. The young guy, he's give him the confidence to play with some better players. I really like Heineman as a player. Mm-hmm. Dach has struggled. I mean, he's looked better playing wing than he has playing center, which isn't a good sign going forward. Alex Newhook hasn't played well. The Evans, Gallagher, and Anderson line has looked good, and Evans, Gallagher, and Armia together in training camp was really good. Like, do you maybe put those three guys back together? You put Anderson down and where Army's spot was on that fourth line. I think at this point, though, if it was me, I'm putting Slafkovsky back on the number one line. That was the line last year. He's got to start scoring more goals than he has been. And then maybe you move Kapanen and give him a chance to play on the second line with Dach and Newhook. Give him a chance to play with some better players. And Marty was saying that his confidence, he needs more confidence. So maybe playing with some better players and give him a little bit more ice time. That confidence might kick in from that. And Dvorak, sit him out and you put Pizzetta in, Or maybe that's the thing. You sit Dvorak, you put Kapanen into center on that line with Armia and Pizzetta, and just see if that sparks something. But I'd be shocked if we see the same lineup tomorrow night. And I'd be if Arbor Jacki still isn't in the lineup, I think there's something more than just his play on the ice that might be factoring into the decisions to keep sitting him out.
Really hope.
I know Darren Dreger, I saw this morning on Twitter, was saying that if the Canadiens decide they want to trade Jacki, there'll be double-digit teams interested in him, and there's no doubt about that.
I mean, Tony and Snake were talking about it last night. This is the makings of like a trade that you regret. You know what I mean? Like, you look back at it, like, oh, of course we gave that guy away, right? I think it's way too early to give up on Arbor. He wants to be here. He grew up a Habs fan. His brother's in the organization. Yep. This is not a player you move on from too early, okay?
No, when they drafted his brother, Bob Robb called him a unicorn.
Yeah.
His brother Florian. Arbor's a unicorn too. There's not a lot of guys who can do what he does. And I still think, yes, is he making mistakes with the puck? Yes. Is that why they're probably sitting him out? Yes. Are those mistakes because he's too much in his head and he's so worried, if I make a mistake, I'm going to go back to Laval? Am I not going to play? Am I not going to do this? And if I'm Marty St. Louis, I'm putting Arbor Jacki in the lineup and I'm leaving him there for 10 games, whatever. And tell him, you're playing the next 10 games. Show me what you can do. And then after those games, we're going to decide what's the best for you. But just take some of that, because we've seen so many young Canadiens players, especially defensemen, over the years, their development just been destroyed because they were playing with so much fear of making a mistake and what that might result in. And it seems like other younger players have a lot longer leash when it comes to making mistakes than he does. I mean, Justin Barron's made some doozies, and I understand that, okay, you don't want to put him to Laval because he'll probably get claimed on waivers, almost certainly, but you can sit him out a game or two here also. I don't know if Arbor's a pretty popular guy in the room, I think, too. Like, does that guy, seeing him sitting, we're not in the room, who knows? But I think they need send a message through somebody else rather than just sitting Arbor Jackeye and sit some guys who really deserve to be sat.
Again, I think I bring this up every time I'm on, but his presence alone is a factor, right? It's not just his play. It's just the fact of having him in the lineup, right? Last night against Washington, you saw Tom Wilson take some liberties at Lane Hudson and Caden Gooley, and credit to Josh Anderson. Fed him. Okay. Bravo. More of that, please. More of that. But again, the other team knows, oh, Arbor's not in the lineup. All right. It's feast, right? It's hunting season. So just
Arbor's not in the lineup because Etta's not in the lineup, right? So the only guy you really have is Josh Anderson, right? I mean,
it's not enough,
right? But he's not. No, it's a soft team, right? It's a small, soft team. And Chris Nyland keeps saying this. The Canadiens need more men. They need more men in the lineup. There are too many little boys, too many young boys that are on the lineup. And again, going back to what I said, I believe it was Elliot Friedman that Kent Hughes is looking to add a veteran forward with some grit to this team, and they need that. They really do need that. I mean, the growing pains of the defense. It is what it is, right? They have all these young defensemen, and they're gonna have to play them. And Marty was talking. He was asked yesterday about sitting out Jackson. I got 7 defensemen, and a lot of times one of them's hurt, so you're only 6. When you get 7, you got to juggle it. You got to sit guys and move guys in and out. That's understandable, and that's going to continue all season. There's going to be growing pains with this defense group all season because that's who they have. But bringing in a veteran guy, a Sean Monahan type guy, I think would be a big impact on this team. And then you've got to hope that Patrick Laine. They said 2 months. It was September 18th or whatever he got hurt. So we're talking another. If it is only 2 months, we're only a couple of weeks away maybe from him starting skating again. I know seeing him at the Bell Center, he's not on the crutches anymore. If he does have a brace, it's like it's not the big brace that he had before. He's walking, not perfectly, but he's walking without the help of crutches or that. So if they can get Laine back and bring in a Sean Monahan type player, but they're not easy to find, right? That would definitely give this team a boost. And then the defense, as I said, there's going to be growing pains all season, and the goalies have to be better. Sam Montembeault has to be better, and if Caden Primo isn't better, what do they do?
Exactly.
To me, it's reached a point that if this continues with him, you put him on waivers, and if you lose him, you lose him. You're not going to carry 3 goalies again. I mean,
no.
In hindsight, I think they would have been better off putting Primo on waivers last year. If you went to Laval, great, play the hell out of him in Laval. And if you lose him, you lose him. Then you keep Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault and sort of rotate them. I mean, this team would be better right now if they had Montembeault and Allen, right? Jake Allen and Montembeault and Primo probably leaned on Allen a lot too. Like he was a really good veteran. He was a really good leader and did his best, even though he was sitting out games. He did his best to help those 2 guys. It wasn't like he didn't look at them as competition. He looked at them as teammates. I mean, he looked at them as competition that, every goalie wants the net,
right?
But he didn't he wasn't upset if they played well. He was in their corner. And I think that helped both of those goalies last season. And losing him was big. Like Jacob Fowler's coming along, right? He's maybe the goalie of the future. And if you had Montembeault and Jake Allen this year, I think that to me they're in a much better. And they didn't, not like they got much for Allen when they traded him, but Kent Hughes was sold on Caden Primo that he's going to be the guy. And there's reasons why Caden Primo was a 7th round draft pick, right? There was obviously holes in his game, and we're seeing those holes. And I think that Primo would probably be better with another team if he was claimed, because I think just the pressure of playing in Montreal, the heat that comes with it, I think it's just he gets in his head too much, and if he lets in 1 bad goal, it usually leads to 2 bad goals. And I think I mentioned last week on the show, you see how many times he looks behind him when he makes a save, like he's uncertain if he stopped the puck or not, and he loses the net and he's sort of flopping around. And I don't believe he's an NHL goalie. And at age 25, like, how much more do the Canadiens need to see before they maybe realize that? He's played 50 games in the NHL now, with a 12, 23, and 7 record and a .890 save percentage.
I mean, I understand why Kent kind of took the gamble of keeping him, younger goalie. He did really well in Laval, right? So I guess he was hoping that, maybe not that he would become the goalie of the future, but would at least have some trade value, right?
Yeah.
At this point, he does not.
No.
He does not have any trade value.
No.
So,
I wonder if somebody's going to take him on waivers. If you claim a guy on waivers, you got to keep him on your NHL roster, right? So other teams that are watching him play, are you going to keep him as your backup on your team and on the roster? Like, that's why I'm not convinced that he would get claimed if they put him on waivers. Kent Hughes obviously is, and you look at Jake Allen, they got a conditional 3rd round pick when they traded him. Again, I think I know they'd be a better team right now if they had Montembeault and they had Jake Allen as their 2 goalies.
Without a doubt. Look, it's unfortunate. I never wish that a player, doesn't succeed, but you got to call out when they don't. And unfortunately, Caden Primo, it hasn't worked out. So again, you kind of have to establish a timeline here and expectations. If he doesn't reach those, he's got to know what's next, and what's next is Laval. So
yeah, and a lot of
another team.
The thing is asset accumulation, right, and asset management, and he didn't want to lose Caden Primo, an asset for nothing. But as you say, if you're going to trade him, who's going to take him, and what are you going to get? You're not going to get anything. And again, if another team claims him on waivers, I got to keep him on the NHL roster. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully we're getting. I like Caden Primo, a good kid, nice kid. I'd love to see him bounce back and play really well and prove me wrong that he is in fact an NHL goalie. But like, how much longer? And he's going to be playing more games now than he was when there was 3 goalies. How much longer are they willing to just keep believing that he's going to develop into something he might never believe, might never turn into?
Yeah.
I mean, he played 23 games all of last season, right? He's played 6 already this season out of 11. So he's on pace to play almost 40 games, right? And he's never played more than 23 in the NHL, and that was last season. And that might be part of why Kent Hughes is doesn't want to give up on him, because he's never had a full shot at the NHL. But you got to earn that shot too, and you got to deserve that shot. You can't just have it handed to you.
Exactly. Well, look, I'm happy to report that the 2025 draft is really good. So if there's something to look forward to, the Habs have 2 first-round picks, and it's a good draft class.
And that's why I said, I mean, you can't, in my opinion, you got to wait 5 years before. People say they're going to fire Kent Hughes. I think Jeff Olson's been very patient with this. The heat's on Marty St. Louis now. They're not going to fire Marty St. Louis. I can't see it. I'd be shocked if that happened at this point. I still think that he could use some help with a veteran coach behind the bench. Maybe that's something the Canadiens look at doing. But we talk about being positive. Michael Hage, Demidov, Jacob Fowler, these guys coming up that'll be here. Laval playing really well with all these young kids down there, Owen Beck and that guy. So it's not all doom and gloom. As far as the rebuild goes, 2 years from now, if we're talking here again, we might be saying, remember 2 years ago when we said it's after, well, now's the time, and now either this rebuild's failing and this rebuild's working. But it's too early now to give up on the master plan that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon have. But I think it is time for a little bit of tinkering.
Again, this is a critical transition season for the rebuild, right? The first 3, it was asset collection. They draft players, they get draft capital. They've had those players now. They're in the system. Now it's time to establish a winning culture and start winning games, so that when those young players come in, it all flows. All flows. So,
well, I think fans are still patient, but they're frustrated. Right,
as they should be.
Frustrated because they in the mix, right? That was the whole thing, and they're getting blown out. Like people pay a lot of money to go to the Bell Center. It's not cheap, right? And I had friends once, they shouldn't boo them. And if I had paid $300 to go see Bruce Springsteen last night, and he looked like he didn't care and was out there and mailing it in, I got the right to boo, right? I paid a lot of money for that show. And same with Canadiens fans at the Bell Center. They pay a lot of money to go to these games, and they want to see guys on the ice who are battling and fighting the way this team did last year. And then you get back to doing that.
Absolutely. Stu, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. We'll be doing this again next Friday. I'll be filling in again for Matt. So looking forward to it. Try to enjoy the game tomorrow. Maybe, go. I don't know if there's another concert in town. But...
No, I'm going up to Montreal for the weekend, Buddy's place. So I'll be watching it on TV there.
Phenomenal. Enjoy your time there, Stu. Thanks as always.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Guys, if you're tired of watching the Habs and you want to do something else, maybe you can go over to Playground, okay? You can step into the world-renowned poker experience at Playground, where free food and drinks at cash game tables, a bad beat jackpot, weekly promotions, daily tournaments, and unmatched customer service awaits you. Why play anywhere else? Just minutes from downtown Montreal across the Mercier Bridge Playground. Unfortunately, I'll be watching the game tomorrow. But you know what? Hoping for the best. Okay, let's stay positive. Let's stay hopeful. Hopefully, they can turn this thing around. A bit of housekeeping before we head off here. Je vais vous adresser en français pour ça, parce que Tony a un show en français. Si vous n'étiez pas au courant, maintenant vous l'êtes. À chaque vendredi après-midi, donc plutôt aujourd'hui, Tony a fait un show. Donc, si vous êtes francophone, vous aimez les shows en français, vous pouvez écouter ça. Back in English now, because we have another big addition to the Sick family. All right. Chris Knuckles Nyland has his own show, the Sick Podcast, Raw Knuckles with Chris Nyland. Go on over to that page. Give them a follow. It's going to be a really good one. Trust me, I'm one of the producers, right? So I know. Okay, you want to tune in for that. So thank you to Stu Cowan. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. For producer Sammy and Agnello in Master Control, I am producer Shayne. Tony's back on Monday. Let's hope for a win on Saturday. Take care, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.